Placing on something long. I'm usually placing it on. I placed it on. Let me place it on. For me to place it on. Planting it. I'm planting it. I usually am planting it. I planted it. Let me plant it. For me to plant it. Playing. I'm playing. I'm usually playing. I played. Let me play. For me to play. Playing ball. I'm playing ball. I'm usually playing ball. I played ball. Let me play ball. For me to play ball. Playing or making music. I'm playing. I'm usually playing music. I played music. Let me play music. For me to play music. Playing with another. I'm playing with him or her. I'm playing with it. I'm usually playing with him or her. I'm usually playing with it. I played with another. I played with it. Let me play with him or her. Let me play with it. For me to play with it. Or for me to play with another. For me to play with it. Pouring from a container. I'm pouring it. I pour it. I poured. Let me pour. For me to pour. Practicing. I'm practicing. I usually practice. I practiced. Let me practice. For me to practice. Praying. I'm praying. I usually pray. I prayed. Let me pray. For me to pray. Promising. I'm promising. I usually promise. G to isti skoi. I promised. Ak to istanai. Let me promise. With G to ista. For me to promise. Ak to istotti. Pulling it. I'm pulling it. Gina sanea. I usually pull it, or I'm usually pulling it. Gina sane going. I pulled it. Agin sane sai. Let me pull it. With Gin saneki. For me to pull it. Agin sanesti. Pushing it. I'm pushing it. Gisadorska. I'm usually pushing it. Gisadorskoi. I pushed it. Akusado. Hai. Let me push it. With Gisadohya. For me to push it. Akusadosti. Putting it on. I'm putting it on like an article of clothing or something like that. Nikon diha. I'm usually putting it on. Nikon diskoin. I put it on. Nawan tanai. Let me put it on. Nikon ta. For me to put it on. Iyaguan tohti. Iyaguan tohti. Putting it in a container or open space. Something living. Jiyaska. I'm usually putting it in an open space. Jiyaskoi. I put it in an open space. Jiyanai. Let me put it in an open space. Or him or her in an open space. With Jiyaga. For me to put him or her in an open space. With Jishti. Putting in a container something neutral. I'm putting it in a container. Jitlaska. I usually am putting it in a container. Jitlaskoi. I put it in a container. Agislanoi. Let me put it in a container. With jitloga. For me to put it in a container. Agisti. Putting it in a container something long. I'm putting it in a container. Gilatia. I usually put it in a container. Gilatiskoi. I put it in a container. Agilatoi. Let me put it in a container. With gilata. For me to put it in a container. Agilatisti. Putting it in a container something flexible. Gilaska. I usually put it in a container. Gilaskoi. I put it in a container. Agilanai. Let me put it in a container. With Gilaga. For me to put it in a container. Agilati. Putting it in another's hands. I'm putting it in his or her hand. Giasagatistiha. I'm usually putting it in another's hand. Giasagatistiskoi. I put it in another's hand. Giasagatististanai. Let me put it in another's hand. With Giasagatista. With Giasagatista. For me to put it in another's hand. Giasagatistotti. Putting my foot on it. I'm putting my foot on it. Galasi tatiha. I usually put my foot on it. Galasi tatiskoi. I put my foot on it. Awalasi tanai. Let me put my foot on it. Wigalasi tata. For me to put my foot on it. Awalasi tadisti. putting my hand on it. Ga sitta di ha. I'm usually putting my hand on it. Ga sitta di skoing. I put my hand on it. Agwa sitta na'i. Let me put my hand on it. We ga sitta da. For me to put my hand on it. Agwa sitta di. Putting on a cap. Gali stule on. I usually am putting on a cap. Gali stule skoing. I put on a cap. Agwa stulan na'i. Let me put on a cap. We gali stulan ga. For me to put on a cap. Agwa stuloti. Putting on a hat. Gali square to huska. I'm usually putting on a hat. Gali square to huskoi. I put on a hat. Agwa square to na'i. Let me put on a hat. We gali square to huga. For me to put on a hat. Agwa square to sti. Putting on a ring. Galie susta ska. Galie susta ska. Galie susta ska. I usually put on a ring. Galie susta skoi. I put on a ring. Awalye susta na'i. Let me put on a ring. Wikalie sustaga. Wikalie sustaga. Wikalie su. Let's see. Wikalie sustaga. Skega. Yeah. And for me to put on a ring. Awalye sustahasti. Putting on a shirt. Ganuwa. I'm usually putting on a shirt. Ganuwa skoi. I put on a shirt. Awanwa ai. Let me put on a shirt. Wikanuwa. Wikanuwa. For me to put on a shirt. Awanwa sti. Putting on clothes. Deganuwa. I'm usually putting on clothes. Deganuwa skoi. I put on clothes. Dawanwa ai. Let me put on clothes. With deganuwa. For me to put on clothes. Dawanwa sti. Putting on earrings. Degatli atong ska. Degatli atong ska. I'm usually putting on earrings. Degatli atong skoi. I put on earrings. Dawatli atong na'i. Let me put on earrings. Witigatli atong uga. Witigatli atong uga. For me to put on earrings. Digwatli atoti. Putting on glasses. Degaga tina taska. I'm usually putting on glasses. Degaga tina taskoi. I put on glasses. Dawak tina tanai. Let me put on glasses. Witigaga tina tunga. For me to put on glasses. Diwak tina ti. Putting on gloves. Degalye suli. I'm usually putting on gloves. Degalye suli skoi. I put gloves on. Dawalye sulan nai. Let me put on gloves. With degalye sulanga. For me to put on gloves. Degalye sulti. Putting on pants. Ga suli. I'm usually putting on pants. Ga suli skoi. I put on pants. Awa su long nai. Let me put on pants. We ga su long. For me to put on pants. Awa su lodi. Putting on shoes. Dega la su ska. I'm usually putting on shoes. Dega la su skoi. I had put on shoes. Dawa la su nai. Let me put on shoes. We diga la su tlanga. For me to put on shoes. Digwa la su ti. Putting on socks. Dega li yo ihan. Dega li yo ihan. I'm usually putting on socks. Dega li yo ihoi. I had put on socks. Dagwa li yo tlai. Let me put on socks. We diga li yoga. For me to put on socks. Digwa li yosti. Putting out a fire or light. Gutlati. I'm usually putting out a fire or light. Gutlati skoi. I had put out a fire or light. Agwatlati tanai. Let me put out a fire or light. We gutlata. For me to put out a fire or light. Agwatlatisti. Quitting. Jisulgoga. I'm usually quitting. Jisulgogoi. I had quit. Aksulgozai. For me to, or let me quit. Wijisulgoi. For me to quit. Aksulgosti. I'm racing. Gatokia. I'm usually racing. Gatokia skoi. I raced. Awatokia. Let me race. We gatokia. For me to race. Agwatokiasti. That gua should be long. I done screwed this one too. Or here. This one here. Agwatokia. That should be long right there. Raining. I am raining as if I am the rain. Jigaska. I'm usually raining. Jigaskoi. I rained. Agwagananai. Let me rain. Wijigana. For me to rain. Agwaganti. Raising or lifting. Jisaldia. I'm usually lifting. Jisaladiskoi. I lifted. Agisalatanai. Let me lift it. Wijisaldaga. For me to lift it. Aksaldodi. Raising or growing another. Oh, I'm raising him or her. Chiyata istiha. I usually raise him or her. Chiyata istiskoi. I raised him or her. Chiyata histanai. Let me raise him or her. Wijiyata hista. For me to raise him or her. Chiyata histoti. I'm reading. Jigolia. I'm usually reading. Jigolia skoi. I read. Agigolia. Let me read. Wijigolia. For me to read. Agigoliedi. Receiving or getting something neutral. Jigi. I'm usually getting. Jigi skoi. I got. Agigi sai. Let me get. Wijigi. For me to get. Agigisti. Receiving or getting something long. Ji. I'm usually getting it. Ji skoi. I got it. Agiyaha'i. Let me get it. Wijiya. For me to get it. Agishti. Receiving or getting something flexible. Jinea. I'm usually getting it. Jinesko'i. I got it. Aginesa'i. Let me get it. Wijinegi. For me to get it. Aginesti. Receiving or getting a liquid. Jinegi. I'm usually getting. Jinegiskoi. I got it. Aginegisai. Let me get it. Wijinegi. For me to get it. Aginegisti. Recognizing another. I recognize him or her. Gioliga. I usually recognize him or her. Gioligoi. I recognized him or her. Giolizai. Let me recognize him or her. Wigioliga. For me to recognize him or her. Giotlisti. Recuperating. And this literally means I'm in the process of standing up again. Tega le isi, huh? Tega le isi, huh? I'm usually recuperating. Tega le hi si skoi. I recuperated. Tagwa le hi sanai. Let me recuperate. Witiga le hi sa. For me to recuperate. Tigwa le hi sohti. Remember, I'm remembering him or her or another. Chiana tati. I'm remembering it. Gana tati. I'm usually remembering another. Giana tati skoi. I'm usually remembering it. Gana tati skoi. I remembered him or her. Giana tati tanai. I remembered it. Gana tati tanai. Oh, sinaha. Oh, I remembered. Agwana tatis tanai. Let me remember him or her. Wijiana tata. Let me remember it. Let's see. Wigana tata. For me to remember him or her. Giana tatisti. And then for me to remember it. Aguana tatisti. Reprimanding or scolding. I'm scolding him. Giskaga. I'm usually scolding him. Giskagoi. I scolded him. Giskadzai. Let me scold him. Wigiskagi. For me to scold him. Giskasti. I'm resting. Gadawe solasti, huh? I'm usually resting. Gadawe solasti skoi. I rested. Agwadawe solans tanai. Let me rest. We got the way solans ta. For me to rest. Agwadawe solans tohti. Returning. I'm returning. Sigu jitluka. I'm usually returning. Siwu jitlukoi. I returned. Siwu agitluchai. Let me return. Siwu wijitluki. For me to return. Siwu agitluhisti. I'm writing it, or an animate thing. Giakilati, huh? I'm writing it. Gakilati, huh? I'm usually writing something animate, like a horse. Giakilati skoi. I'm usually writing it. Gakilati skoi. I rode an animate thing. Chi ya kila tanai. I rode it. Awa kila tanai. Let me ride an animate thing. We ji ya kila da. Let me ride it. We ga kila da. For me to ride an animate thing. Ji ya kila dohti. For me to ride it. Awa kila dohti. Rising up. To stand. Gale aska. I'm usually rising. Gale haskoin. I rose. Agwa land na'i. Let me rise. We got le hunga. For me to rise. Agwa lehti. Rockin'. They got like They got like Asina. They got like I usually am rocking. They got like skoin. I rocked. Da wa like hai. Let me rock. They got like gala. For me to rock. They got like ti. Running, I'm running. Gadid lost the I'm usually running. Gadid lost these going. I ran. Agwat lost tanai. Let me run. We got lost. For me to run. Agwat lost tohti. Saying, I'm saying. Gati I'm usually saying. Gati skoing. I said. Agwat don't nai. Let me say. We got done. For me to say. Agwati. I'm saying. Nijiwe Nijiwe I'm usually saying. Nijiwe skoing. I said. Nagiwe sai. Let me say it. We nijiwi. For me to say it. Iyagiwesti. Saying to another. I'm saying to him or her. Gio seha. I usually say to him or her. Gio sehoi. I said to another. Gio selai. Let me say to another. We gio si. For me to say to another. Gio sehti. Scheduling time or planning. I'm planning. De ji sti I'm usually planning. De ji sti going. I planned. Dak tanai. Let me plan. With de ji sta. For me to plan. Dik stoti. Searching for it. Chiyaha. Chiyaha. I'm usually searching for it. Chiyahoi. I searched for it. Akiyalai. Let me search for it. With jihka. For me to search for it. Agishti. I see another. Or it. This first one is I see another. Jigo tiha. I see it. Jigo tiha. I usually see another. Jigo tiskoin. This first G here should be long. Jigo tiskoin. I usually see it. Jigo tiskoin. I saw him or her. Jigo ai. I saw it. Agigo hai. Let me see another. Wijigo ta. Let me see it. Wijigo ta. For me to see another. Jigo tati. For me to see it. Agigo tati. Sending it. a living thing. So I'm sending it to another. I'm usually sending it to another. I sent it. Let me send it. For me to send it. Sending it neutral. I usually send it. I sent it. Let me send it. For me to send it. Sending it long. I usually send it. I sent it. Let me send it. For me to send it. Sending it flexible. I'm usually sending it. I sent it. Let me send it. For me to send it. Sending a liquid. I'm usually sending it. I sent it. Let me send it. For me to send it. I'm selling it. I'm usually selling it. I sold it. Let me sell it. For me to sell it. Setting it down, something living or flexible. I'm usually setting it down. I sat it down. Let me set it down. For me to set it down. Something neutral setting it down. I usually set it down. I set it down. Let me set it down. For me to set it down. Setting down something long. I'm usually setting it down. I sat it down. Let me set it down. For me to set it down. Setting down a liquid. I'm usually setting it down. I sat it down. Let me set it down. For me to set it down. Shining. I'm being as a ray of light. I'm usually shining. I shined. Let me shine. Or dista. That'd be let me be shining. For me to shine. Shooting. I'm usually shooting. I shot. Let me shoot. with DG stayo huh? For me to shoot. DG stayosti. Shooting another. Gio huh? I'm usually shooting another. Gio hoi. I shot another. Gio tlai. Let me shoot another. With Gio. For me to shoot another. Gio sti.